Most amateurs spend 30 minutes on the putting green before every round. Their putts per round are within 3 strokes of a scratch golfer. They hit 5 greens out of 18, but from 150 yards, they leave the ball 40 yards from the hole. They're not bad putters, they're bad from 150 yards. Mark Broadie analyzed the top 40 PGA Tour pros from 2004 to 2012. He found that putting is 15% of the gap between elite pros and average pros. Approach play is 40% of that gap. A scratch golfer beats a PGA Tour pro on the greens in more than 30% of their rounds, so you're closer to a pro on the green than anywhere else on the course. Hayden, that data has been public for 12 years, but nobody's talking about it because Instagram reels about putting get the views. And I mean, we've experienced that ourselves. That's why you've been practicing wrong maybe your entire life. What's your experience been like as a professional, Hayden, trying to work on putting versus approach play and how you manage that balance?
Yeah, putting versus approach play. It's really easy to get comfortable on the putting green. so, what typically happens before I go play any tournament is I want to spend a lot of time trying to get a feel of the greens. And what I was told from a young age is that you go to the putting green and you just want to get a feel and you want to get the speed right. It wasn't until I talked with a golf coach who actually helps the University of Kentucky out, and she told me that way too many people are hitting putts from 10 to 25 feet when they're warming up for golf. Because when you go out on the golf course, first off, the putts from 10 to 10 to 25 feet, you're not going to make them as much. Statistically, they just have a low percentage chance of going in. But what happens is when you practice from 4, 5, even 3 feet, and you are seeing the ball go in the hole, you're having a more confident stroke. That translates over to the golf course much, much more. So when you analyze that with approach play, and trying to get really good at hitting greens, trying to get really good at giving yourself birdie putts, trying to give yourself chances to score really well. I think that the thought is when I make a lot of putts, I'm a good putter, but the thought really isn't if I hit a lot of greens or if I hit it in spots that are helpful for me, you don't think that you're a good approach player.
If you're enjoying this conversation so far, you are going to love the Play Ready Golf app. It takes the amount of time you have, the facilities you've access to, and the skill level that you're at, and it builds out a customized practice plan that gets harder over time so that you get better over time. You can use code PRGPOD and click the link down below to get a free 7-day trial and $20 off your annual plan for life. Now back to the conversation. Yeah, putting's definitely more finite. You have a very specific goal. Whereas with approach play, it's harder to know if you were successful or not because if the ball goes in the hole for an approach shot, you know it's unbelievable. But outside of that, what am I supposed to know is good or bad? And that's why I put together that stats dump down below that you can get for free where you can compare to different handicap groups. But I know for myself, I have wasted hours and hours and hours of practice time on just putting when I absolutely could have used some of that time to go work on approach play or pull bigger levers. What do you think, Hayden, is the difference between a scratch golfer and a 25 handicap when it comes to putts per round?
Okay, so this is good because I'm not looking at it. We've had difficulties in the past. Okay, so scratch player, and you said a 15?
25 putts per round.
25 handicap, putts per round. Let's say 5 strokes,
It is
I'll say 6 strokes, 1 every 6 holes.
that you actually nailed it.
On 5?
31.3 average for scratch and 37 for a 25 handicap. Now, we talk about how putts per round is not the world's best stat. So let's jump to a different one that's maybe a little better, which is greens in regulation. In terms of percentage of greens in regulation hit, Hayden, scratch golfers versus 25 handicaps, what do you think the gap is?
Ooh, I'd say it gets closer to, like, 7, 8 greens per round.
So scratch golfers hit 56.8% and 25 handicaps hit 18.7%. So that's about 5 or 6 greens per round where
Okay,
they're
so it's
missing.
about this.
And
Okay, yeah.
those compound, obviously, as we talked about
Yeah.
in our previous episode together, how those mistakes can continuously compound. And if we're missing those greens and we're maybe only making a few less putts, that's a huge gap right there, and you can really take care of that by just hitting more greens. Not even necessarily hitting it closer, just hitting it onto the green more often because putting is gonna be significantly easier than chipping. Let's talk from 150 to 200 yards. This is a very specific area where we're gonna see a big, big gap. Scratch golfers are going to leave the ball on average 54 feet from the hole, whereas a 15 handicap is 122 feet. 122 feet on average for a 15 handicap. And all of us think that we
Ooh.
need to be stuffing it close.
Yeah, so that's 40 yards?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's almost half the football field. I mean, in
And
terms of, like, end zone to midfield, I mean, that's the average.
yes, that's the average. And this is not to rag on anybody. This is just to point out the reality of where you're actually losing shots. And I can already hear the comments rolling in. Well, I don't do that. And I'm a 15 handicap. Or, oh, I'm a scratch golfer and I'm way better than that. Great. At the end of the day, in all honesty, the scorecard doesn't care about how it looked. We just got to get the ball in the hole. What we're talking about today is where the overwhelming majority of golfers lose strokes, and the overwhelming majority of golfers think it's their putting. I think that's a couple reasons, like we talked about earlier. It's very definitive. The ball either went in the hole or it didn't, and it's the last thing that you're going to do on every single hole. So it's probably where you're going to point it out the most often. You're typically not going to make major mistakes with irons as you would with, say, a driver. Like you're not necessarily going to hit it out of bounds as often with an iron. But if you hit it out of bounds with the driver, man, that really stings. But if
Yeah.
you miss a green by 5 feet, oh, that doesn't feel as bad as missing one off the planet, even though that could almost cost you the same amount of shots as hitting at OB.
Yeah, I really wanna harp on that because that was a really good point you made. It's the last thing you do on the green, and sometimes it can be the first thing that you think of when you're walking off the green. That makes me think of a round that I was caddying for a member at the club that I caddy at. And, what happened on one of the holes was they missed the green left. It was a complete and, like, an utter mental mistake. Like, it's short-sighted, there's sand, it's so difficult to get out of there, and this person hit an incredible bunker shot. They hit it to, like, 10, 15 feet, like, which was great, incredible. And when they missed the putt, not because I gave him a bad line, I wanna put that out there. I'm a great caddy.
That's
But they
I
missed.
can vouch for that.
But they missed the putt, and walking off the green, it was, "Ah, man, I mean, I just how do I miss that? How did?" It's like you're getting upset and you're griping out about the wrong thing, because I'm thinking if you miss the green right, if you hit the green, let alone miss the green right, we would have had a much easier opportunity to make par. That 15-footer could have been a lot shorter, or you could have been having a birdie putt and been inside a number that totally took bogey off the table. But that makes complete sense. We wanna think about putting because it's either the last thing we do or it's just something that feels much more attainable than hitting the 5 iron from 170 yards within 25 feet.
Yeah.
That's
And
why they
it
make that's why they make putt-putt courses, and because we can we can putt better, or we can be closer to putting than we can to what a PGA Tour or even a scratch golfer is at approach play.
yeah. And it's tough to measure too, right? Like if you're just out at a driving range with some range balls, it's hard to know, am I actually getting better? Am I not actually getting better? That's why everything in that Play Ready Golf app is built around being able to track those things and track if you're actually getting better and giving you an understanding of what you're supposed to work on, because two-thirds of that gap between you and the next level that you want to get to is ball striking. It's not your putting, it's not your chipping. It is primarily approach play with a little bit of driver mixed in. And so even that's just it's a big gap. I don't know. Hayden, what are you?
Well, so it just sounds like so let's say 30 minutes that I'm spending on the putting green before a round, I am potentially losing strokes that I could be gaining if I was working on 150 yards or I was working on the approaches that I anticipate having on the golf course before that round. Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, it's easy to make the practice green really comfortable. You hit the same 8 footer over and over again. You make a few, you get some confidence going. When in reality, how often are you going to have an 8 footer? B, how often are you going to hit the same 8 footer two times or more in a row? And ultimately, yeah, putting, you're going to hear people say, well, it's half the shots. That doesn't mean that that's where half your value is, because if you're spending the majority of your time on approach play, you're going to be hitting it closer. You're going to give yourself more chances. And putting is mostly just a gamble. Like
Yeah.
it is hard to make putts. It's
Yeah.
statistically really hard to make putts. We saw that we saw that this past weekend at Aronimink. Like putting is really hard. And you actually can't control a lot when it comes to putting. You can control your line that you start the ball on, and you control the speed that you hit it at. You can't control spike marks, you can't control imperfections in the green, you can't control grain. You can only do so much. And so the closer you get to the hole, the better likelihood you have of it going in. And you're not going to be able to improve your make rate from 20 feet by that much. But you can absolutely improve your approach play from 150 to 200 measurably within the next 6 months.
Yeah, so is that the reason why while we are on the topic of major championships, why someone who played super well in the first round, you'd hear the sports commentators or people like Brandel or your favorite podcast that's recapping round 1, why they'd say that that player isn't playing a sustainable round of golf. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, putting always comes back to the mean, right? You're always going to end up at your average. Yeah, you might have an outstanding round or two, but over the course of a week, it's really hard to keep a hot putter. I mean, you're going to find that even this summer as you're out playing golf. Any of us, we're going to have rounds where we make a ton of putts. We're going to have rounds where we miss a ton of putts. And when I started kind of dive into the stats in college, my mantra moving forward was like every miss is statistically one putt closer to making the next, like another one. Statistically, I'm due. Statistically, I'm due. Statistically, I'm due. That's what I kept telling myself. Even when it came to fairways, eventually I'm going to hit one. Like I was a terrible
Yeah.
driver of the golf ball. Eventually, I'm bound to hit one. But that's really a big piece when it comes to putting. Is statistically you are going to make some eventually.
Mhm.
So what we have to do if we want to score lower is we've got to hit it closer. So all this is clear. I actually want to skip past. We were going to talk Hayden about kind of the myths around this and where those came from. I want to jump straight into how can we actually improve in this area, and then maybe we can kind of sprinkle in some myths here and there. But because there's a lot of really smart people that said the wrong things. We've got kind of three key players in that, but I do want to start with some drills or some ways that we can actually get better. For you, we talked the other evening. You were hitting some 60-yard shots. So let's talk. And last week, Connor talked about trying to get dialed within 60 yards. He doesn't hit that many balls, but if he does go practice, it's within 60 yards. So let's talk about kind of that sub 100. How can I get better inside 100 yards?
For me, what I do is I definitely try to gamify it. So Isaac and I were having a call to prep for this podcast, and I said, "Hey, I got 4 balls. I got to get 2 of them up and down inside 60 yards." And it's very simple. You either do it or you don't. And I told myself I got to keep doing it until it happens. Um, other great ways to practice inside that number that's not like up and down is giving yourself a target. So I want to get it inside a certain number, and you can use teas and do that to be super, super specific. You just have to do something that tells you, did I do it or not? It can't be willy-nilly. It can't be something that is up to interpretation on whether you got better or not. And the things that's going to help you play the best or when you walk home or walk to your car from the course that day or walk back, you recap that day of practice and you'd be like, "Yeah, I failed today." And the days that you fail and you understand, like, I really worked hard at it and I didn't compromise and I didn't back away from what my routine was or my practice or my prep or my focus. The days that you do that, and it doesn't have to be a 3 hour long practice day. It could be 30 minutes. I'm going to do this for 20 of the 30 minutes. And if you really focus and you really just don't like give up on yourself doing that, you're going to eventually get to the days where like, you're going to walk away. I didn't fail. I succeeded. I did whatever. And then you can get to the days where you give yourself an incentive for passing. Hey, you know what? I do the drill. I'm gonna stop at that ice cream shop on the way home. Hey, I do the drill. I'm gonna, open up for me, it's a lot of sweets for me is what I incentivize myself
You
with.
and me both. Yeah. That's, I've been doing a ladder for years now, 30 to 100 yards every 5 yards. If you want to know what proximity you should be hitting it to from certain distances, once again, you can grab those for free down below for pros to 20 handicaps. But that ladder from 30 to 100, I stole from Dustin Johnson and I absolutely love it. But even that's a way to gamify it without making it super specific or super pressure packed or use it as a warm up. But like Hayden said, you do want to be failing some. If you're not failing at least 20% of the time, you're not learning. And so, and that's not just my opinion, that's a ton of different experts talking about it. Before we jump into 100 to 150 and how we can improve from there, and I've been working on this a lot, so I'm excited to talk about it. I want to talk about kind of the first place where we start seeing that putting is everything in the game, which is 1953 from Bobby Locke. He was a four-time Open champion from South Africa, and he popularized the line "drive for show, putt for dough." He was the guy. So if you want to blame somebody, it's him. And honestly, he was probably a great putter. The people that he saw were great putters, like we talked about earlier. That's the last shot you hit, so it's the last one you're probably going to remember. But Sam Snead said about him, he was the greatest putter I have ever seen. He'd hit a 20 footer, and before the ball got halfway, he'd be tipping his hat to the crowd. Kind of reminds me of that Tiger meme from the President's Cup that was like he hit the putt and he was just walking immediately to shake the hand. Um, and yeah, listen, putting is incredibly important, like we talked about. It's only 15% of 15% of the gap between you and that next level, though, and that can change for people. I'm not saying that, for you, it might be the second most important thing that you need to be working on. That's why it's really important to keep accurate stats. Once again, there will be a link down below for how you can do that, even for free, very simply. The drive for show, putt for dough thing is going to be around for a long time. Um, Unfortunately or fortunately. And so this is a great opportunity for us to take that time that we were wasting on putting and put it towards approach play. So 100 to 150. Let's talk. What's your favorite drill to do from this range, Hayden?
Favorite drill from 100 to 150. I was fortunate enough to have a range that had a lot of flags from 100 to 50. And so just like basketball, they have around the world, I would play someone else in around the world. And if I didn't have someone else to play, I would play myself and see how many times it took me to hit the green. And then if you miss it, you can either choose to stay, and let the other person go and do their turn, or you can risk it and try to hit the green. But if you miss it, you got to go start all the way back. Um, Things like that would allow me to go into my full routine, would allow me to, you know what, like I need to adjust for the wind. I need to adjust for this and actually switch clubs and hit different shots. And if I really wanted to get good at it, I'd have to hit a club that I normally wouldn't hit to that number and get really good at just hitting a number, hitting a shot. I always say that I'm playing my best golf when I'm hitting shots. And I'm not thinking about left arm at P1 and trying to clear my hips and having a smooth transition. All I'm thinking about is like, I want to hit shots. And so the drill that I do from 100 to 150, I really want to get good is doing some type of around the world. If you don't have access to a range that has a lot of flags or sticks, other things that you can do is visualize the areas on the golf course that you typically play that are the 100 to 150 shots and imagine where the bunker is. Imagine where the pin is that gives you the most fits. Oh, it's back left today. The old you might be thinking that's automatic double, but the new you can think, okay, we're going to aim at the right side of the green and we're not going to let our eyes drift left. That's the biggest thing is getting excited about aiming for the right side of the green and you hit the right side of the green. Like you have to tell yourself that that's a win because cognitively in our brains, when we hit certain shots and it's the actual shot we are trying to do and we don't do and we do it the correct way, but we don't reward ourselves, you're telling your brain that's not what you wanted to do. And it's just giving your whole body confusing information the whole time. So 100 to 150, you got to gamify it the most you can. So Isaac, what drills do you like from that distance number?
Yeah, there's two. One of them I've been doing on GC Quad because I'm fortunate enough to have access to an indoor facility, and so I've just got something set up using the numbers from that PDF down below to really dial in those numbers and see if I'm actually hitting it that far. I really struggle from 100 to 135 because there's some overlap there.
Yeah. You
There's a
were
lot
telling
of
me that last week.
knockdown shots. I've been working on it a ton. The majority of that distance, what I'm finding is just awareness of what the stock number is. Like the true stock number, not how far I think it is, but the true stock number. I thought my gap wedge was 130 to 132. It's really like 124,
Oh, yeah.
which is fine. That's how far it goes. But I was pulling it from 100 to 132
Right. Yeah.
and coming up short, or I was airmailing the green because I was like pull hooking one, right?
Yeah.
So now I've got a better understanding of how far they go. But like you said, if you're getting out on a range, I think what's incredibly valuable is actually being able to play to opposite sides of a marker. So let's say they got one of those big old barber poles out there. What I like doing is, let's say one of them's at 115 yards. I'm going to actually play the same club to 5 yards past and 5 yards short, because to some degree I can see that, and then try to keep it
Mhm.
within a certain window left and right.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to hit it close if you're not hitting it straight. So
Yeah.
before you get too on yourself about distance control, we really need to know how to hit it straight at this distance, or at least land it within a decent area of where we want to. That's gonna get in a little bit to swing for a lot of people, but if you can get really good at hitting those knockdown shots, you're gonna have a way better understanding of where your face is at, and the full shots will get that much easier.
Yeah.
That trickles up. Working on these wedges and these short irons at 70, 60% and knowing how to hit those knockdowns, that trickles up into the rest of your bag. I've seen that for myself. Okay, we've got 100 to 150. We're going to cover the long irons, longish irons next, probably 150 plus. Before we jump into that, we've got another little myth coming from, unfortunately, do I have his book? I do. I do have it up here. Harvey Penick's red book, little red book, one of the best-selling golf instruction books of all time, if not the most best-selling golf instruction book. In 1992, in that book, he says, "A good putter is a match for anyone. A bad putter is a match for no one." And 3 years later, Ben Crenshaw won the Masters days after Penick's funeral, and talked all about putting. Talked all about how he was the smartest guy ever. I don't know if that's right, but I mean, he really he attributed a lot of his success to Penick's teachings, or Penick, Penick.
Yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say, we might be getting to the no laying up,
yeah,
Neil Schuster, mispronunciation. I think it's Pinnock. I don't want anyone to roast you in the comments. If they
yeah,
did, I'd actually love it if you got roasted in the comments.
I would too,
I'm sure
but boost
vice
the
versa.
algo. Yeah, let's get some comments down below. But yeah, I think that's another great one of that's right behind Driver Show Putt for Dough is his love for putting, and once again, it's important. It's not everything. I do want to also reference back to the Will Davenport interview. I mean, they made the four ball, him and um, Mike. Mike, my bad. I don't know why I can never remember your name off the top of my head. Mike Smith, Will Davenport were playing the four ball this week. They made match play, lost a really, really tough match. They played really, really well. Congratulations to them. They'll get them next year. But Will talked a lot about how he figured out very quickly he needed to become a significantly better putter to compete at that level. And what we might hear is, okay, I need to focus way more on putting. He was already really freaking good with his irons and his approach play and his driver and his chipping. He saw the weakness. And so he spent more time on his weakness in order to be able to match the other people. That's where you got to be keeping stats for yourself so you know what your weaknesses and your strengths are. All right. Let's talk mid to long irons, Hayden, because this one's tough. Like, it's tough to see if a 4 iron landed where I want it to, right? How
Yeah.
can we work on that?
So working on 4 irons, 5 irons, I even throw 6 irons into the long iron
Yeah.
category. I think you have to get good at two things. One, it's knowing your shot shape and being really good at hitting that shot shape no matter what. Like even if it's a back left pin, a middle left pin, even if the water is left, like knowing, okay, if I can get my mind as strong and as sturdy and as focused as possible, we're gonna still hit our left or right shot. But then also to just understanding like what expectations should be with a 4 iron, with a 5 iron, even if you hit it shorter. So say your 4 iron, let's say your 5 iron goes 160 yards or 165 yards. It's a lower lofted club. It's going to be hard to hit the green like at a high percentage clip. And so understanding that picking a good target, picking an area for the ball to land, a general area for the ball to land, and it's not on the green is completely fine and doable. Expectation management is really really important with the hardest shots that you have to hit. We talk about that when we were going through our short game series and talking about like the chip shots that could absolutely cost you, a chip shot that would be so hard to hit the green, but if you do hit the green, it's counted as a win. That's what we have to almost envision long irons with. So drill wise, picking things out on the range, hitting to them, but having having a side of the flag that's like a green light. Like I want to hit this 5 iron and I just want to miss it right of the flag. I either want to hit it right at the flag or miss it right of the flag. Choosing things that translate well over to the golf course as opposed to, well, I'm going to hit a flag. Well, what happens if you hit it 5 yards left? Like, do you consider that a win or not? Because just as Isaac has said, like it's really hard to quantify and justify and say like, okay, is this a good shot or it's is not a good shot? Try to figure out and choose things that will give you the feedback. Yes, it's good. So I think about this a lot. Like when we hit a good putt and say, okay, I hit a perfect putt, and boom, it goes in. Like what happens when we hit a quote unquote like perfect 5 iron? Does that mean that it goes in? Because I would want to say that if I hit a 5 iron, for me, it's going to be like a 210 shot. A perfect 5 iron would probably be anything inside 10 feet. Well, it's like, what are, why are we not saying that a perfect 5 iron is inside the hole? We're saying a perfect 5 iron is inside 10 feet. It's because we have to shift our brain to think like, what is actually good? What is the real goal here? Like, what should get us jumping up and down for joy? And I definitely think it's like the long irons giving you a birdie putt should be like a boom. I can fist bump to that. I might look weird in the fairway, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you're playing professionally. Okay, perfect 5 iron is inside 10 feet. For me, perfect 5 iron, honestly, I'm a whatever plus couple handicap. Genuinely, a perfect 5 iron is on the green.
Yeah.
Like I've
And
gotten
that's
very
completely fine.
and that's borderline with every club. Like I'm happy on the green. If I'm just on the green, I'm pumped. Because if I miss the green, like okay, I know that now par is significantly harder than it would have been if I was on the green. So no matter what handicap group you're in, unless I guess you're a professional or you're a super high level amateur, like being happy with a green is good. Even
Yeah.
professionally, like being like if you hit it on the green with a 5 iron, it's better than not hitting on the green. Like you can still be happy about that because those shots are not easy.
Yeah.
They have more time in the air, they have more time for wind to hit them. They're coming in a little bit hotter, so it's harder to stop it. Like there's all kinds of different things that make this long iron game really difficult. And I want to come back to what we talked about just a second ago with that 100 to 150 zone. If you're on the range, the first thing that you should be looking at is can I land this thing relatively straight on line with my target? Because it's really easy to figure out how far that ball goes. Like you just drop two balls on the course from where you think you should be, and you find out how far you actually carry it. Great, that's easy, right? But taking the time to do the volume of even switching back and forth between 2 or 3 targets and seeing if you can start it where you want to and finish where you want to, that is a skill that is the primary skill in golf. Face control is the name of the game. That's why Scotty Scheffler is the best in the world because he controls his face better than anybody else. That's what makes Tommy Fleetwood so confusing is because he's really good at it, but, um, there's he's still one of the best in the world. But that's the name of the game when it comes to these distances. Alright, last little myth here from one of our favorites, Dave Pelz, genius short game coach, genius wedge coach, huge Phil Mickelson guy, former NASA scientist. Did you know he was a NASA guy? I had no clue.
No, I did
That
not.
was news to me as I was doing research for this.
Maybe he's overqualified.
He might be. He might be. Well, he said that about 80% of the shots golfers lose to par occur inside 100 yards. I think you can agree with this, and you can be right and wrong. Because, okay, well, yeah, if you chip it poorly and then you miss a putt, this comes back to the like last shot fallacy, if we want to call it that.
Right.
We're gonna blame whatever the last thing in the chain is what we're gonna blame for everything, good or bad.
Yeah.
Like if I make birdie, I'm blaming it on the putt. If I make
Yeah.
par, I'm blaming it on the putt. If I make
Yeah.
bogey, I'm blaming it on the putt. So like we can blame, yeah, sure. You could say 100% of the shots they lose to par are inside 100 yards if you want to, because the last shot's in there, and the chip's in there, and maybe a wedge shot's in there.
Yeah.
But you could also say 100% of them are on approach play. You could also say like there's a way to justify all of that. I don't think Dave Pelz is obviously a genius. I think this is the way that he framed that quote. Probably these all could use context. I mean, I rip my own stuff out of context all the time just to get views. So we're not beyond this, but I think there's an aspect to all these quote unquote myths or misdirections that are true. Putting is really important. We know that putting is a big separator week to week because if somebody's putting way better than their average, they're probably going to play really well. They're probably going to score really well. For the most part, the separation between guys on tour when it comes to putting is not that much. That's what makes the players who putt better year over year over year over year, that like that much more impressive. Sam
Yeah.
Burns, Denny McCarthy, these guys that you know are gonna putt really well year over year. Like that's crazy impressive. That's what I
Yeah.
not to blow smoke, but like every time I play with you, I feel like every putt has a chance to go in. It's like I don't even know how in the world I'm supposed to get there, but I'm sure gonna try. But there's levels to it, but also we know that the separation between levels is not all that much.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
I'm
like a
super
lot of I feel like a lot of the PGA Tour events that have either happened recently or within the year, I feel like a lot of the winners are winning by multiple shots, and I
mhm,
don't think that's because of putting. I think it's
yes.
because they're ball striking it so well, and they're getting to the 17th, 18th holes with a 2 or 3 shot lead, and it's not because of that abnormal great putting day. It's because of that, like, built over the course of 4 rounds, "Hey, I'm just hitting it, like, on the green more. Hey, I'm just
Well,
hitting it, like, closer than you."
this last weekend was a great example of that. Not that we're gonna be a tour recap podcast. There's plenty of those, and I don't want to be one of those. Like they're, I enjoy listening to them way too much to try to do them on my
Yeah.
own. Aaron Rye's 70 footer on 17 was sick. Everybody's gonna remember that. That's not the reason he won though. It was like a nice cherry on top. But then you go back a couple holes to 15, the par four, super long. He pulls three wood when everybody else is pulling driver. He already doesn't hit very far. He hits this sick little cut three wood up against the slope, so he stays in the fairway because he realizes how important it is to hit that fairway. He then goes on and hits a 4 iron just short of the green. Doesn't even hit the green. That shot still had to have gained strokes though. And now he's got a simple uphill, whatever it was, 30 footer.
Yeah.
Like he won because he was doing that all
Yeah.
week. He
Yeah.
did not win because he made the 70 footer. I'm sure
Yeah.
plenty of other people made 70 footers throughout the week.
Yeah.
The way to close the gap between your ceiling and your floor is approach play, and then a little bit driving. But that's how I joke with my brother-in-law all the time. Like, there's rounds I have where I feel like the ceiling is the floor, like it's as good and as bad as I could have played. Like I wasn't gonna shoot anything else today other than the number I shot. Um,
Do you
but
think
the
it's a
way to
correct way to think about it?
I mean, there's just days that feel like that, right? Like I'm sure there's days like that that feel like the days that feel like that for you, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I just went out there and I played golf and then I left. Like I just the
Yeah.
number I shot was the number was how I played. I
Yeah.
didn't play better or but the way to raise that ceiling and to raise the floor is to get better approach play because that's just going to give you more chances for birdie. It's going to eliminate bogeys. Like you might hit it to 20 feet and be pissed when you miss a putt. But guess what you didn't do? You didn't miss the green and flub a chip and then make bogey.
Yeah.
Like those pars are valuable at every level. We saw it once again. We saw that this past weekend. Pars are super valuable. Um, you even see that in scrambles. Like just hitting greens is important. I mean, it's important at every level of golf, no matter if you're playing goofy golf or good golf or whatever it is, high level golf.
Yeah.
I'm getting off the wagon here, Hayden. Bring
Yeah.
me
So
back.
I'll ask you a question. So we had Bobby Locke, we had Harvey Penick, and we had Dave Pelz. They between the 3 of them, almost 50, 60 years of golf instruction, and they really preached the short game just like you told us. No one really questioned it, like, what brought us to where we are today? Like, why are we at the place we are today where there's a million different putters and you have the Sam Putt Lab and you have, you know, green reading books and all of these things that just, like, say, "Oh, if you get good at putting, you're just gonna shoot great
Oh
scores."
man, this is gonna be if you're still listening to this point, this is gonna be the golf sicko conversation you came here for. I am back working in the golf space, in golf retail at the world's best
Congrats.
fitting company. Love it. Love shout out to Golf Exchange. Just the best. Putter technology is awesome. Being able to fit putters is great. All this information on strokes gained and make rates and all that is awesome. The problem with over optimizing is you lose the ability to just go make putts. So there's a store manager. I was working in a store this week. Store manager was doing a putter fitting, and I was talking with my boss about him and the way he fits putters. And I think pretty much everybody, like everybody at Golf Exchange, fits putters this way, and they do a great job. There's part of it that's optimization. Okay, you need based on the amount of torque that you apply to the putter, you need to get this amount of toe hang. Based on how tall you are, where your arms are, where your eyes are, we need to get the putter at this length. So we need to get line angle and loft and all that. That's all very important. Like if that's way off, it's really hard to putt well. But then there's also the aspect of it of does this provide the feel that you need so that you can roll it consistently and so that your speed control is good. And so that's kind of blending the science and the art of putting. Then there's the aspect of when you set the putter down, can you line it up very well? There's a little bit of science there, there's a little bit of art there. And I think overall golf as a whole, there's a lot of and really just everything in our world, there's a lot of optimization going on, right? And that's good and bad. Like we've got an app that is designed to optimize your time and optimize your practice. And that can be good and it can be bad because if you spend all your time using this app and practicing and you never go play golf, you're not going to get better at playing golf. Like you might get marginally better, but you need to go play so that you know how you're doing. That's why
Mhm.
you have to build these stats that like that's exactly why we have all this track. This is not a sales pitch, by the way. That's why we have all this tracking in there. So you can track your stats and then you can go back and you can practice and you can track your practice and see if you're getting better on the range or not. And then you can go see how it applies directly to the golf course. You have to have the whole ecosystem. And that's where when you get these putter fittings that there's a certain putter company that I did a putter fitting through, and their mat had a line worn down the middle. I'm not gonna air them out, but I walked away with a putter feeling great. I used it for half a semester and putted awful because all I did the whole day was hit the same 10-footer over and over again, and no matter where I started it, pretty much, it was gonna end up in the cup. So then we're
Mhm.
only looking at does it like does my stroke match it and all this stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas I got out on the course and it was way too light for me and I couldn't lag putt with it. And it was a cool putter, it was a great putter, but, like, if you're over optimize you optimize for the environment that you're in. So all that optimization, if it's not in the environment if you're not making the environment as close to the game environment as possible, it's not gonna work. Like, that's
Mhm.
why when we were on the phone the other day and we were talking about your up and down game, like, that is close to the environment. That is really, really close to the environment. You're adding some pressure in there, you're hitting a shot that you're gonna have to hit on the course, you're completing it, so this thing is really, really close to actual game time, and you get the benefit of volume on top of that.
Yeah.
So the more that you can combine volume with intent, with as close to the, like, actual game time feeling and, arena that you're gonna be in, the better that you're gonna get. I don't know, and you see it probably more than even I do with pros, like, when you go to
Yeah.
these professional events, like, how many guys that you know, eventually we're gonna be cooking on some big tours, but we're playing some mini tour golf right now. You're out there grinding. Like, how many of those guys are out there with launch monitors and trying to over optimize? I think you're one of the
Yeah.
you're a great example of get the ball in the hole. Like you're a get the ball in
Yeah.
the hole guy.
I really try to because and this is no shade. This really isn't no shade at all, and there's different strokes for different folks, but I always find that the guys that have the most contraptions going on, whether it's on the putting green and they set up like, 30 different things, I usually see them as the first tee times out, like the final round. And it's no shade at all, but I think that like our brains are very much this day and age overstimulated, and we have these social media apps that cause us to scroll. And when it comes to golf, we have, hey, this device will help you do this thing. If you put these lines down, you'll be able to hit the ball on line. And then if you put a string down here, you'll be able to see your club and do all this. It's like, I mean, Jack won how many majors not really having any of that kind of stuff? And I'm not saying that all those things are bad, but if you allow yourself to practice in the way that the golf course is going to let you like experience golf, because you can't have all that stuff out there on the golf course. I think if you and we're going to keep preaching this until the end of time, or until someone buys your app and we can't have this podcast anymore. Like, we're going to preach it, like the best way to get better at golf is to play golf. And if you
Yes.
can't go out and play golf, you need to bring golf to the range, the putting green, the chipping green, all those things. So, yeah, you're
That's a hey, that's a
100% right.
great clip right there. That's gonna be phenomenal. Looking forward to seeing that one on Instagram. Um, yeah, to this whole conversation, and listen, if you're listening to a podcast about improving your practice, you're probably one of those people like me who like has way too many gadgets, gets way too in the weeds. If we want to simplify this thing, the way that I've started to think about it is if I can't use it in my office, there's no reason for me to take it to the range or to the putting green. So putting, I want to keep it very simple. I use the same tools no matter where I am, and if I'm embarrassed to use something at a range, it's probably not something I want to take there, right? So here's what that practically looks like. I've got the wide golf putting thing. It's a little bit pricey, but it's awesome. Um, so basically just a line trainer, like just sets down. It's really easy to set up. And I've got a little mirror from putt out, and I set those two things up so I can check my shoulders. And it takes 5 minutes, and it's awesome. Great. I can do that in my office. And for no, like these are drop ceilings, so I'm not taking full swings in here either. I've got this little, I've got this little like weighted swing trainer with a training grip on it. I've also got an actual club with a training grip on it. So there you go. Boom. I've got training grip. I'm using that every single time when I'm getting warm. And I've got a little band that I put underneath my armpits when I'm hitting wedges. And I can do that in here too. If I can't do it in my office with 8 foot drop ceilings and with 8 feet to putt, it's probably not going to be used outside.
Yeah.
Now, does that have to be the rule for you? No, I would say just if it's something that you can do pretty much anywhere and you can say that you're going to consistently use and it doesn't take all the setup in the world, um, then yeah, get after it. But you've got to be able to use it consistently too. Like that's why you see the Scotty Shuffler training grip all the times because he's always using it. You don't see him tinkering around with a bunch of stuff. Like
Yeah.
and like Hayden said, if you're a guy who's tinkering around with a bunch of stuff, you don't see a lot of that on tour. You don't see a lot of that in high level amateur golf. You don't see that in a lot of high level college golf. You don't see it in high level junior golf. The high level players stick with the same stuff and make it boring and game of high their practice. Um, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo in the middle. Hey, let's close this thing out with this recalibration section because we gave a lot of information here. We gave some fun drills. We need to kind of reset how we think about practice. So, first and foremost, if we're starting from scratch, once again, we'll put links down below to a ton of different resources that'll help you keep your stats, know how close you should be hitting it, know how far you should be hitting it, know how to track your stats, know how to spend an hour if you just got an hour to practice. But generally speaking, 70% of our practice time should be driver, approach play, and wedge play. Great. Within that 70% of practice time, 70% of that should be the 100 to 175-yard window for your average male golfer. Now we
Yeah.
can kind of adjust that. We're going to call that sand wedge. We'll call that sand wedge slash gap wedge to 6/5 iron.
Yeah.
We're going to spend the majority of our time there because
It's all
that's
the
where.
shots that are gonna be hitting your shots into the green, all your approaches.
Yep. So now we move into putting. 30% of our practice time is on putting. A little bit we're going to spend on chipping. I think I would make the argument that if you're going to chip, you might as well putt it out.
Yeah.
That adds a little bit of pressure to the chip. That makes you realize how close or how far you hit it. Unless you're really working on like just making good contact, which there's a time and a place for that. I do that all the time too. Like I got to know my low point. But we should spend the majority of that time trying to either get it up and down or working on putts from inside of 8 feet or outside of 30 feet. Great.
And drop the ball. Do not give yourself
Oh my
good
gosh. Yeah.
lies.
Geez. Thank you for that. I appreciate
Drop the
that.
ball, please.
So we've got all that built in. Now, if you want specific drills, once again, you can grab those down below. If you don't want to go grab that, just make them as random and as gamified as possible. Don't hit the same target 2 times in a row. Don't hit the same club to the same target 2 times in a row. Don't hit the same putt 2 times in a row. A lot of just do stuff for the first time and then move on.
So that's for practicing. That's for practicing. As are you saying also if I'm going out and playing around and I have 30 minutes to warm up, I should start cutting that putting in half too?
Yeah, warm ups and practice are different, obviously. Warm up, the goal is to get physically warm and to calibrate setup. Do you have anything to add to that? I think we're just trying to get the body loose and we're trying to calibrate setup. So we're trying to make sure that our alignment is good, our posture is good, we're starting the ball on line, we're making solid contact. my knee doesn't hurt, all that good stuff. We're gonna have some people down below saying some stuff about this episode because we're claiming that putting isn't as important as people think it is, right? So let's start out with the people who think that they three putt a ton of times during a round and they need to spend more time on that. What's the comment there?
Yeah, most of the time when you're three putting, you're not choosing a bad line. You just don't have the proper speed. And so, what we need to do is absolutely work on that speed. If you want the statistics from 36 to 40 feet, so you'd look at that putt, a very normal lag putt. The three putt rate for a 15 handicap is 44% of the time. So, I mean, we're almost looking at that putt and objectively saying it's going to be a 50-50 chance if you three putt it or not. And so, because these 150-yard shots for that 15 handicap are finishing around 36 feet away, our goal is to make those long three putts, the lags, be much, much better than what they are. So, what I like to do is uh, take a bunch of balls to first start off and hit it to the edge of the collar, maybe put a tee in the ground, not really think about a hole, just think about a section. And then what you can do is play a like a long lag putt game. So you take a ball, you can even do two balls. I know we say to not hit the same putt twice, but you can move it over to the left, move it to the right, maybe give yourself a different slope, but hit to the same hole and then finish them out. And just understand that if you're going to be hitting long lag putts, the most important thing is speed. It's not so much direction and what if you focus on trying to leave the ball higher, it won't be rolling away from the cup more. So I had another coach tell me once that whether it's chipping, whether it's putting, very like long lag putts. So a chip or a long lag putt, you definitely want to favor the high side because the ball is just going to keep rolling closer to the hole as opposed to missing it low because it just keeps rolling it away. So that's
It's a
typically
great
what I
point.
focus on.
Yeah, another easy way to three putt less is to hit it closer. And I know that kind of sounds like the smarty pants kind of comment. Like
It does.
my dad used to say, like, you want to know my best bunker advice? Don't hit it in the bunker. It's like, well, you're kind of right. It's kind of it's kind of brutal to hear, but good point. But yeah, just we don't need to spend. Let's say we have 30 minutes to work on, and our primary goal is to three putt less. I think we should probably spend 10 minutes on lag putting and 20 minutes on approach play.
Yeah.
Is that one of those is much higher leverage than the other,
Yeah.
and there's a ton of stats to back that up. I think that's going to be the primary kind of comment though is, well, my putting is this bad. Well, let's track it. Let's get some kind of strokes gain metric on top of that to see if it's actually bad compared to your handicap group. Let's see where our strengths and our weaknesses is. You can do that for a week for free in the Play Ready Golf app. Let's
Yeah.
start there and then let's move on to what we actually need to work on how we spend that time.
Yeah.
So here's
And
what I want.
don't be afraid to look at those long lag putts from both sides of the cup. If you're playing by yourself, you're not worried about pace of play, or if you're in a foursome and guys are chipping, putting, like walk around the hole. Just give yourself like all the information you possibly can to go and hit the best lag putt. Don't sell yourself short and don't walk away from the green thinking that you could have done more to prep and prepare for it.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately what we want to take from this conversation is you're probably not a bad putter. You're probably a pretty average putter. You're just hitting it too far away from the hole, or further away from the hole than you need to be in order to score in the way that you want to. Anything else to add, Hayden?
Yeah, not much. I enjoy these conversations. I think Isaac and I are going to keep harping at the really big picture stuff, but it's awesome to have these podcasts. If you're listening, again, thanks. But it's awesome to have these podcasts and just dive more specific into personal stories or personal thoughts, um, and just helping people get better at golf. Ultimately, I mean, that's the ultimate goal is
Yeah.
seeing people get the ball in the hole quicker. And I just don't think that it's from the 50 different swing aids, putting aids. You know, it's going to help you feel good maybe in the moment. But if we're talking about get the ball in the hole, do the things that you can do every day and that you're not embarrassed to bring to the golf course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Grab the app down below for a free week. You can use code PRGPOD and get $20 off a year for life. You just got to put the code in once. Let us know how you like it. If you hate it within 30 days, let me know and I'll just refund you. So we're very confident in its ability to actually make you better at golf. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you guys next week.